Welcome to IDIS 343 Distribution Logistics. Today we're kicking off Chapter 1, Supply Chain Management. Now before we get into the material, take a quick look at the title slide. The book on screen is Breakthrough Supply Chains, How Companies and Nations Can Thrive and Prosper in an Uncertain World. It's by Professor Iyakova and his colleagues. By the way, Professor Iyakova is one of our ID faculty. So these four authors bring decades of real-world experience, consulting, executive leadership, and academic research. And, the title says it all, Uncertain World. I mean, that's the lens we're going to use throughout this chapter. The supply chain you'll inherit as professionals isn't the stable, predictable system your parents' generation managed. It's, something different. All right, let's get into it. Before we dive into the analytical models that'll keep us busy all semester, we need to get something straight. What is a supply chain really? So here's the definition. A supply chain is basically the network of every party involved in moving a product from raw material all the way to the final customer. That includes suppliers, manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, and the customers themselves. Notice that word, right? The network. I mean, we're not talking about one company. We're talking about an entire ecosystem of organizations that together deliver value. Supply chain management is the discipline of running that entire network as one integrated system. Integrated. I mean, that word is going to come up again and again this semester. Highlight it in your notes. Look at the ski parka example. So to make one parka, you need raw materials, cotton, nylon, steel. Those go to a supplier of semi-finished products who makes the lining, the zippers, the fasteners, the shell. Those flow to the manufacturer who assembles the parka. From there, it ships to a distributor or retailer, maybe a ski resort store, maybe an online retailer, and finally, it ends up with the skier on the mountain. 5 stages. All right, so let's extend that picture. There are 3 realities Namias and Olson really hammer on in the textbook. First, interdependence. Every stage depends on every other stage. If the cotton supplier's late, the lining maker's late, the parka manufacturer's late, and the skier shows up to the mountain in November with no jacket to buy, I mean, a delay anywhere ripples through the entire chain. That's why we have to manage the whole thing as one system. Second, transportation. I mean, goods don't teleport. They move by ocean vessel, by air freight, by rail, by truck. And picking the mode is a real engineering decision. Air freight is, fast but expensive. Ocean shipping is cheap but slow. We'll dig into those trade-offs later in the course. Third, funds or cash flow. Now look at the bottom of the slide. See that arrow for cash and credit running underneath everything? Goods flow one direction, money flows the opposite direction. The timing of those payments, what we call the cash-to-cash cycle, has a huge impact on a company's working capital. So basically, a supply chain isn't just goods, it's money and it's information. Now, here's where the textbook makes a really important point. The word chain, it's a little misleading. I mean, a chain implies a straight line, one link after another, but in reality, supply chains are networks. So look at the diagram. Even for our simple parka, you've got multiple raw material suppliers feeding multiple semi-finished suppliers who all feed into one parka manufacturer, who then ships through multiple distributors, plus an online direct delivery channel that bypasses the distributor entirely. The structure has multiple suppliers in different tiers, often in different countries, using multiple modes of transportation, feeding multiple manufacturing sites, and reaching customers through multiple channels. Now, if it looks complicated for a parka, imagine the network for a smartphone or an automobile with tens of thousands of components. The complexity grows fast, and that's exactly why we need analytical tools, including mathematical models. That's what this course is about. All right, quick history lesson. Why did supply chain management even emerge as a field? Before the 1980s, companies were organized around functional departments: sourcing, procurement, warehousing, manufacturing, transportation, customer fulfillment, each one operated as, well, what we call a silo. Each had its own budget, its own goals, its own information system that didn't talk to the others. And there's a problem with silos, right? Silo thinking doesn't produce global optimization. Purchasing might score a great discount by ordering massive quantities of raw material. That may sound good at first pass, right? But that floods the warehouse, ties up working capital, and now warehousing is furious. Each department wins its own battle, but the company loses the war. So starting in the late 20th century, companies began viewing those functions as one integrated end-to-end network of synchronized operations, coordinated by shared planning systems and shared information technology. That's the picture at the bottom of the slide. Same activities, but now, connected. And that shift from silos to integration is the foundational idea of modern supply chain management. All right, so let's make this concrete. The textbook gives us a process view of the supply chain organized around 6 mega processes. Memorize these 6 words, all right? Plan, buy, make, move, distribute, sell. So plan is forecasting and capacity planning. Buy is sourcing and procurement. Make is manufacturing. Move is transportation and logistics. Distribute is warehousing and order fulfillment. And sell is the customer-facing process. Together, those 6 span the entire chain. And running through all 6, 4 flows, materials and products, cash, information, and data. And this is the one students always forget: people, workflows, and skills. It means a supply chain isn't just trucks and warehouses, it's people, it's institutional knowledge. Now, look at the full end-to-end picture on the left. Well, the supply side. Tier 2 and 3 suppliers feeding Tier 1 suppliers who feed inbound distribution centers, then on to manufacturing and conversion. On the right, the demand side, regional distribution centers, fulfillment centers, retail stores, the final mile network, and ultimately the customer. But pay close attention to those red arrows at the bottom, all right? That's the reverse supply chain. Products flow back from customers to a return depot, to inspection or refurbishment, and then either to value recovery or to disposal. For example, recycling AMD returns will be in this category. Why does this matter? 3 reasons. So 1, returns are huge in e-commerce, often 20 to 30% for apparel. 2, sustainability and recycling regulations are, forcing companies to take responsibility for end-of-life products. And 3, there's real money in refurbished goods and recycled materials. The reverse chain isn't an afterthought anymore. Supply chains have evolved into what we see today. They're complex and multi-tiered, interconnected networks spanning multiple countries. They contain, global suppliers providing thousands of parts. They use multiple transportation modes at once. They include both company-owned manufacturing and contract manufacturers. And they reach customers through retail, online, and hybrid channels. All right, here's a famous quote. Henry Ford, back in the 1920s, said, you can have any color you want as long as it's black. That was mass production, one product, maximum efficiency. Today, that approach wouldn't survive a single quarter. Walk down the cookie aisle and, count how many varieties of Oreo exist. Original, double stuffed, mint, golden, seasonal flavors. Customers expect variety, and supply chains have to deliver it while still controlling costs. Now, basically, at the rapid pace of technological change, artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, all of it constantly reshaping operations. The rules of the game are being rewritten in real time. So all this complexity creates what we call a VUCA environment. VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The term comes from the US military, and honestly, it captures perfectly what supply chain managers are dealing with today. Now look at the disruptions on the slide. Extreme weather, Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Hurricane Harvey in 2017, both knocked out oil refineries and ports right here on the Gulf Coast. Supplier failures, the 2011 Japan earthquake disrupted automotive supply chains globally. Labor strikes, government policies like the US and China trade war and its tariffs. Cyber attacks like the 2021 ransomware attack on Colonial Pipeline. That one shut down fuel across the US East Coast for days. Wars and trade conflicts, the Russia-Ukraine conflict disrupted global wheat, oil, and gas. And of course, the pandemics, COVID-19, exposed huge vulnerabilities, especially in personal protective equipment and semiconductor chips, and the Strait of Hormuz impacting world energy supplies. And here's the thing, most companies, didn't anticipate any of this. The result, a cascade of bad outcomes. Demand spiked because customers panicked and ordered way more than they needed, just in case. Costs went up, supplies ran short, and then when the panic cleared, those same customers slashed their orders, leaving suppliers buried in excess inventory. That whiplash effect, we call it the bullwhip effect, and we'll study it in detail later. So, two definitions to lock in. A supply chain disruption is basically any event that interrupts the normal flow of goods, services, or information. The impacts, usually three things: delays in production and delivery, increased costs, and, unhappy customers who often go straight to your competitors. Supply chain resilience is the ability of a supply chain to anticipate, respond to, and recover from those disruptions while maintaining its core function. Resilience has three components. So agility, quick response to changes. If demand suddenly shifts, can you reroute production in days, not months, days? Robustness, strength to withstand disruptions without breaking. Can you take a hit and keep operating? And adaptability, the ability to evolve with long-term changes. When the world shifts permanently, can your supply chain shift with it? Think of it this way. Agility is short-term. Robustness is the moment of impact. Adaptability is long-term. So how do firms actually build resilience? 6 practices, and these are going to come back over and over throughout the course. So first, diversify your suppliers and your production locations. Don't source a critical component from one factory in one country. If that factory goes down, you go down with it. Second, nearshoring, regional partnerships. This is a major trend right now. A lot of US companies are moving manufacturing from China to Mexico to shorten transit times and reduce political risk. And Texas, by the way, is one of the biggest beneficiaries of this trend. Third, strengthen relationships with the suppliers you've got. Resilience isn't just about backups, it's about deep collaboration so that when problems hit, you solve them together. Fourth, contingency plans. So run the scenarios. What happens if there's a hurricane, a cyber attack, a strike? Have an answer ready before the crisis, not during it. Fifth, safety stock. Maintain buffer inventory for your most critical components. It costs money, but for items that could shut down your entire operation, that buffer is insurance. And the sixth, visibility. You can't manage what you can't see. Modern firms use real-time tracking, sensors, and data analytics to know exactly where every shipment is at every moment. So that's the foundation of Chapter 1. A supply chain is an integrated network, not a straight line. It operates in a VUCA environment full of disruptions. And resilience is now a strategic priority, not a nice to have. Next session, we'll start putting numbers to these ideas, beginning with forecasting. Until then, review the slides, read the corresponding sections in Namias and Olsen,